Welcome to Canadian Innovators, the show that celebrates innovation, entrepreneurs, and the Canadian spirit. I am Steve Foxcroft. Jocelyn Bamford is on assignment. Each week, we introduce a new entrepreneur or expert in their field to tell their story. Today on the program, we are pleased to be joined by Terry Caddo, President and CEO of the Burlington Chamber of Commerce. Terry, welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks, Steve. Really excited to be here today.
We're excited to have you here too. And I think your career is amazing because you've had such a great career. But before we get into that, tell us about your upbringing.
Well, this is my ninth career, but I grew up in Thunder Bay, middle of nowhere, and it really kind of set the base for who I was and got the entrepreneurial spirit really young when I was there. You know, when I was in university, couldn't afford rent, didn't want to live at home anymore. So a bunch of us got together, bought a house. And from there, I was hooked, even paying, how do you pay for university? So, okay, we'll sell some trips to Florida, get some buses going. Before I knew it, I had sales reps in Winnipeg, at Manitoba, at the college. I had 13 buses going to Florida every year. And it really, the entrepreneurial bug bit me early, and I've had it ever since.
That's great. So obviously that was an interest growing up. What about other interests and where you went? Did you go to Lakehead?
Went to Lakehead. When you grow up in Thunder Bay, you better know how to play hockey.
Right.
So we were skating every day, and fortunately being short, slow, and didn't really help my hockey career, but I chased around a lot of great skaters that made the NHL.
Well, there's some players from there, right? Some families we know of.
Lots of them, the Stalls, Dugagnes. I grew up with Tony Herkus. I think he played 18 years in the NHL. Lots of great players from that city.
And is that what it is in Thunder Bay? The Twin Cities, they got together and all that kind of thing. And was hockey the main thing growing up sports-wise, or was there other interests and stuff to do? But you're in Thunder Bay.
Yeah, other than skiing and the outdoors, lots of great things to do in the outdoors, hunting, fishing. But when it's that cold for so long and access to ice, growing up and having my kids grow up in Southern Ontario, hard to get ice time, expensive. There you could go from morning to night, outdoors. I know Normie McIver played. His father picked him up from school at 3:30, and they were on the ice from 3:30 every afternoon to probably 10 at night.
And even Gretzky here in Brantford, he was on an outdoor rink, which we really can't do anymore, right? Every day he's out there on his outdoor rink. You mentioned being an entrepreneur and your love for entrepreneurship, and you deal with a lot of entrepreneurs at the Chamber. So what advice would you give to young people who have that entrepreneurial thoughts and how they might want to get started?
Don't be afraid. I remember when I graduated from school, I begged, borrowed, and stole every grant I could get, and bought my first business when I was 24 years old. Bought a Robin's Donuts. Didn't realize Tim's was going to kick their butts, but that's life.
Right.
But don't be afraid. Go find some good mentors. Be brave. That now's the time to go and try great adventures. When you're young, you can afford to fail. Don't be afraid to fail.
What about education? Because sometimes entrepreneurs didn't really do great in school because they had that entrepreneurial spirit that doesn't really match up. But is education still high on the list?
It really helped me. So I had a bachelor's degree in marketing, and then I came down to Southern Ontario. I got a second degree in sport and event marketing, and then I went back and got another degree from the Institute of Canadian Advertising. Always growing, always challenging, always learning new things. I think it's really important to keep challenging yourself and pushing yourself. Even today, I'm still taking courses all the time. You want to stay current on what's going on. And if you don't stay current, you're going to fall behind.
Toronto Star, that's another thing, right?
That was one of my jobs when I came to Southern Ontario, and it's about innovation. I know I was fortunate. I love sports, and I became the sports marketing director for Torstar. And we did fantasy sports. I invented the first $1 million hockey pool.
Really?
We said,
Yeah.
Can you pick 10 scorers in order to get the right order right? And it ended up only costing us $13,000 to buy an insurance policy from Lloyd's of London. And it became the best promotion in globally every newspaper in the world, $1 million hockey pool at the Toronto Star.
I loved it too. Growing up, that was one of the things I remembered. And the other thing I find fascinating about you is you were at Ontario Place, and we all have an Ontario Place memory. You must have lots of them.
Oh, I loved it there. But when I came, it was the end of the Kelly's Pub, Sailor's Pub. They're rebranding themselves, and looked at the market and went, well, there's no one here, but everything's for kids. So I was one that came up with a whole new branding around kids just want to have fun. Licensed the Cyndi Lauper music. We had a great team at Ontario Place I was part of. Brought brand new branding, rebuilt it, grew our attendance from, I think, 500,000 back over $1 million. And one of the really neat things we did when we were there, we brought the Chinese Lantern Festival. Here's some guy from Thunder Bay in Beijing negotiating with the Chinese Ministry of Culture 20 years ago, and we brought the first Lantern Festival to North America. Drew over 200,000 people. Great event. Again, you want to always be innovating. If you're always doing the same thing, you're going to fall behind. You got to grow, you got to innovate, and I love being on the Innovator. Sure, talk about this.
Want to talk a little bit more about that, but we got to take a break. You're watching Canadian Innovators. Stay with us.